Good morning, everybody. Sorry, there was a small technical issue.
Morning.
Good
I would like
morning.
to thank you all for joining us again in this series of talks organized by ETC. It's really nice to see you all joining us, as well as our colleagues and participants who joined our previous sessions. Welcome, everybody. Few reminders before we begin. The session is going to be recorded. You may type or raise hand for questions at the end of the session. Our guest speaker for today currently is the director at the Center for Information Systems at Sultan Qaboos University, and he is an associate professor in the Department of Computer Science. He has more than 20 years teaching experience in the field of IT. He served as an academic advisor to undergraduates as well as with graduate studies. Also, he initiated and developed the content of a number of new postgraduates and undergraduates level courses. He had received various number of recognition, attendance, and completion certificates of different types of events. He was awarded as the best researcher in SQU last 2018. He also finished his doctorate degree in computer science at the University of Glasgow in United Kingdom and took his master degree on the same field at Case Western Reserve University in the United States of America. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Nasser Azidi. Dr. Nasser?
Assalamu alaikum rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam.
Warahmatullah wabarakatuh.
Thank you all for attending the session, and thanks so much for organizing this fruitful and successful series of events. It's a pleasure to join you today, and hopefully during the next half an hour or so, I'm going to be just shedding some lights about mobile apps development. Pretty much sure that this is probably not going to be new for you, but just to share some ideas and thoughts. This is also not sort of research talk. It's rather a general discussion, if I may say so. And then you are most than welcome later on for any sort of discussion related to mobile apps development. I guess before I start, I would like to know how much time do we have for the talk?
Doctor, thank you. It is 1 hour.
Right, that includes the questions, or should I stop sometime a little bit before that?
It includes the questions.
All right, very good.
We can extend 10 more minutes if we find that it's necessary.
Right. I'm not really good at time management, but I'll just try my best to make it about 45 minutes, inshallah, and then that should be fine. All right. So what I will be basically doing through this session, just to give you a little bit of a historical overview about mobiles and their developments. And what I'm really going to talk about is how does mobile industry affects the everyday economy and society. So economical impact and trends. I'm going to share a few facts and figures with you for discussions. And then we will go a little bit in a little bit more technical, and then talk about how do people go about developing mobile apps? What do they do? And then we will conclude with a single slide for those who are interested to go and do development. What are the things that they should look at before taking this journey? So historically, probably everyone remembers the 2007, the July 2007 event when Steve Jobs announces the first iPhone. But actually, the industry of mobiles started much more earlier than that. Even we could even call them smart mobiles, not just normal mobiles. You know, so in 1992, IBM announced the development of its first smartphone. Somehow, it is smartphone, and was called the SPC, the Simon Personal Communicator. That mobile phone at the time do have an email client, fax, a calendar, quite a good number of apps that at that time was a breakthrough. Then, of course, things starts to accelerate a little bit. BlackBerry 850 was announced in 1999, and BlackBerry was really dominating the business market for a very long time. In 2002, Microsoft partnered with Compaq, and they announced the H300 Microsoft Pocket PC, which contains somehow a light version of Windows operating system. And then Nokia Communicator 92110, the famous device, probably one of the famous devices in smartphones, was announced in 2001 with the Symbian operating system. Notice all of this happened much earlier than 2007 announcement of iPhone, and of course that is also before the announcement of the first Android device in 2008. طبعا later on we will definitely, you would have noticed almost everything else disappeared from the market, and we are left with two. Well, there are few other versions, but they are really very marginal compared to Android and iPhone, Android and iOS, if I have to name them correctly. Right, so these are just some pictures of the old devices that I've just talked about. That's the IBM SPC device. And then this is the BlackBerry, and this theme for the BlackBerry, if you notice, continues with this their keyboard. This is the Microsoft Compaq H300 personal organizer, and then the Nokia 9210 device with Symbian operating system, which continues for quite a good time. And of course, that's the iPhone. It doesn't really look very different from the new iPhones. And of course, the Android HTC Dream, the first Android device in 2008. Since then, however, lots of things have changed. As we stand, probably by beginning of this year, almost 67% of humans on Earth do have mobile phones. That's a very large number, by the way, and I'm going to tell you why is that really a very large number in the next slide. But 67% of people on Earth do have mobile phone. That's more than 5.2 billions. طبعا almost 7.8 billion of people. I mean, that's the population of humanity. 56.4 are in urban areas, and the internet penetration is also quite high. All of these, the penetration of technology and the ubiquitousness of mobile devices, all open huge doors for the mobile industry. Why do we think 67% of population is quite high number? Because simply, if you compare it to other things, other basic needs of humanities, it's much bigger. يعني, there are only 68% of people on Earth who have electricity. there are 58% of people on Earth who have bank accounts, right? There are only 45% of people on Earth who have running water. And now if you look at number of people who have mobile phones, it's almost close to 70%, right? So the people who have mobile phones are more than the people who have water or electricity or bank accounts. That's quite large number of population. Now, if we look at the growth of apps, it's worth mentioning, by the way, when Apple first announced its iPhone, after almost a year of the announcement of iPhone, they announced the App Store, the Apple App Store, with only 500 apps in the App Store. And Google announced their Google Play Store in October 2008 with almost, 1,000 or so mobile apps at that time. So we are talking about how much? 13 years back? 13, 14 years back, where we have only around 2,000 apps published in the stores, in both stores. Today, by end of the third quarter of 2020, there are almost 2.9 apps in Google Play and around 2 million apps in App Store. That's a very huge jump in the size of mobile apps. There is almost an app for everything that you could think about these days in these stores. And by the way, these are only in these two stores, Google Play and App Store. And this is by 2020. Now, Windows Store, Amazon, and also recently the Huawei Store, they are also gaining lots of momentum. So the number of apps has grown substantially, exponentially indeed, in the last few years. Now, that growth in the number of apps have also been supported by the growth in the number of downloads. In 2019, there were more than 2 billion downloads worldwide of mobile apps. That is really huge downloads in the mobile app. And just imagine, by the way, every download costs a single dollar. That's $200 billion in 1 year. And of course, there are apps which are much more expensive than that. I'm going to talk a little bit about the revenues in later slides, but just to give you an idea. Of course, that's a huge jump. If you notice, and that's a substantial growth, by the way, especially led by China and India. But there is also growth even in the United States and Japan. So the growth worldwide is about 45%, mostly led by the growth in China and India. So a total of 45% growth between 2016 and 2019 of the number of downloads from the stores. That's quite large number of industry. Now, if you look at it, consumers, the users spend more than 120 billion US dollars in app stores. Right? That's quite a large number of money worldwide. And of course, it is, again, as you notice, it's led by major industries, major economies in the world, China, United States, but also Asia and Europe, with different sizes. China leading this by 190% growth between 2016 and 2019, so topping up to almost close to 90 or a little bit more than $90 billion spent in mobile apps. Right? Now, from 2019 to 2020, there is a growth of about 26% of mobile ad spending. You know, advertisement is one of the major revenue sources for mobile apps, and it grows only in 1 year by 26%, from 190 billion to 240 billion US dollars for mobile advertisement spending, only in 1 year. Right. Now, another major notice. You know, we have been hearing, probably my age, my kids, we've been talking about gaming consoles, you know, Atari, long days, but then PlayStation and Xbox and different gaming consoles. You know, there is a lot of fuss about it. There is lots of media about it, but on numbers speaking, in mid 2016, the mobile gaming have taken over the other gaming consoles technologies by much, right? When you talk about 2019, although there is a little bit of growth in other console gaming stations, but mobile gaming is by far, you know, gaining, lots of attention in the gaming industry. So these days, probably your kids are going to ask you to buy a mobile phone for them and download gaming and do gaming inside their mobile phones, as opposed to getting them an Xbox or or a PlayStation 4 or whatever it is, right? So it's actually gaining lots of momentum, and that's around 20 billion US dollars for gaming in 2019. When it comes to revenue, again, it's growing, steadily growing in almost everywhere in the world. There is a revenue of around something like $45 billion in China, more than 45 billion US dollars in China, and of course United States and Japan, the rest of the world. So if you just combine all of this, it's going to be huge money, huge revenue for mobile apps, worldwide. Now, again, there are different trends. There are different, figures that people need to watch out when they go into this industry. One of them is that the huge growth of entertainment and streaming applications. In 3 years' time, it grows by 520%. It doubles 5 times, right? The streaming industry in mobile phones and entertainment industry in mobile phones has grown 5 times since 2016 until 2019. And again, we have seen the growth in mobile advertisement, and it was really huge until 2019. And in the previous slide, if you remember, we also talked about the growth from 2019 to 2020, which is almost 26% in mobile ad spending. Now, that is how it looks like today. How does it going to look like in the next few years? It's going to continue like that, or probably with a little slowness because of all the things that are related to the pandemic, the financial crisis worldwide, and so on, but still growing. So we expect the number of downloads are going to increase to 184 billion downloads by 2024. 45 billion of these downloads are going to be from App Store for iPhone, and 139 billions are going to be for Google. Of course, that's a huge difference, but that continues. because of the penetration of each one of these two versions of the devices. When it comes to spending is going to grow much more than before, reaching 171 billion consumer spending in 2024. The interesting thing to notice, however, is that even though we have less number of downloads in iPhone and Apple Store, when it comes to spending, it's much more than Android. So 45 billion downloads corresponds to 115 billion spending, 115 billion US dollars spending for only 45 billion downloads, while we have 56 billion spending, 56 billion US dollars for 140 almost billion downloads in App Store, which basically tells you that Apple users are spending much more money on their mobiles and mobile apps than Android users. And that, of course, gets reflected also in the revenue generated by the mother companies, definitely. Okay, now I do like this slide, and I usually use it for, to somehow motivate entrepreneurs and students. Now, this chart, a bit old now, but it tells the message. It tells you how many years does each one of these technologies require to reach to 50 million users. So, for example, humanity needed 68 years so that from the invention of airplanes, from the first airplane launched until we reached 50 million customers for airplanes. 68 years. We took 12 years, for example, to get 50 million mobile users. Right? Not mobile users, but using phone calls. And notice the exponential decrease in the time required to gain 50 million users. Now, Facebook takes only 3 years. Twitter needed 2 years. And Pokemon Go, there are only 19 days from the announcement of the game until we reached 50 million users. We needed only 19 days. Now what does that tell us? It basically tells everyone, if you are about to invest, then go develop a mobile phone, a mobile application. Your return on investment is going to be much closer. You need less resources to do your investment, and you will need less time, much less time, to start, making profit out of your project. The end of the day, if you look at it, what is actually Pokemon Go, and what is Twitter, and what is Facebook, and what is YouTube? What are these things? They are code. They are thousands, probably millions lines of code written by programmers. But that's it. There is nothing really tangible inside them, right? While if you look at these technologies, they all involve heavy machinery and heavy manufacturing, and of course, huge investments. Okay. Of course, that that trend, which is driving the technologies and driving every aspect of our life, have also changed the business. Now, if you look at the giant companies, the top companies in the world, you would notice that in 2004, we have General Electric, we have ExxonMobil, you have Pfizer, Walmart, and so on. So these are all, oil companies or pharmacologies or, retails or banking and so on. There is only Microsoft among the top 10. And of course, we have Intel as a hardware manufacturer. In 2019, the picture has completely changed. all the top giants here are technology companies. We still have Microsoft, Amazon, Alphabet, that's Google, Apple, Facebook, Alibaba, Tencent, and so on. So we only have still Visa, and Visa is actually moving towards so many computerized and technology-oriented things. Johnson & Johnson and this other company in here. The rest is all technology-oriented, and this is all driven by software with different aspects, including, of course, mobile devices, mobile applications. I wanted to show you this small video on YouTube. It's going to take 2 minutes, so just bear with me for a second. Right. So this basically shows how is the big companies changed. As you notice, General Electric, ExxonMobil are among the top at the very beginning. But then after a little period of time, you would notice in some big giant technology companies are gaining lots of momentum. Maybe, by the way, I can speed up the playback here so that we get a little bit faster. That's now IBM in the early 2000s disappears. Sorry. Now notice what happened around 2019. That's Apple come in and throw in. Microsoft started again. And Apple stays at the top for a very long time. Right? Then Amazon and Facebook comes into the picture. And Chinese companies. Right. So that was just an an overview about. Sorry, let me just stop this thing. Okay. I assume you still can see my screen. Right. Now, again, that was just an overview about what happened in the industry. Now, if I just go a little bit more technical, of course, these mobile applications that you see all over are hosted somehow into devices, and these devices are usually operated by one or another operating system. Operating system is the core software that does almost everything that controls everything into your mobile. The resources of your mobile, and even though mobile phones are getting sophisticated, they are still very low in resources compared to servers and desktops and laptops. So the operating system manages these resources, it distributes them among applications, it also controls how the applications talk to each other and how the mobile actually talks to the user and accepts input and deals with the different functionalities from the user perspective. Now, of course, there are different, the mobile operating systems have also went through a long journey of development. There was a Palm OS used in 1999. Nokia had Symbian, and Symbian dominated the mobile market for a very long time until Nokia disappeared. BlackBerry had their J2ME Java 2 micro edition operating system for their mobiles. Microsoft, of course, do have their CE, and then later on they changed it to Windows Mobile in 2005. Then comes in 2007 the iPhone OS, which later on was named iOS instead of iPhone OS, and of course the Android in 2008. Now, since then, almost all of the other operating systems here disappear, and we are left with almost these two, and they dominate the market. As you can see, about 77% worldwide of the mobile phones are based on Android. Around 23% are based on, or 22% are based on iPhone or iOS, and less than 1% other versions. So these two mobile devices or mobile operating systems dominate the market. Again, as I said, about 70% for Android, 27% for iOS. That's worldwide. When you look at our local market in Oman, the picture is almost the same. So we have 77% Android users, and almost 22% of Omani users are based on iOS. So it's in line with the world norm, if you wish. And there are a few other things like Linux, for example, and Samsung and whatever, but they are really very marginal. They are less than 1% altogether. Now, when it comes to developing your mobile applications, there are, I can say that there are two major, or actually three, let me put it this way. There are three major ways to develop mobile applications. One, and probably the most widely used, is the native development. Native development here means you develop natively for the operating system of a specific platform, using the software development kit of that software, and using the language of that software, and using the language and the IDE even of that platform. So for example, the native development of Android, people will use Android SDK, which is downloaded from Android, and they usually will use Java or Kotlin programming languages to write their mobile code, and they will use an IDE, an integrated development environment called Android Studio, or maybe something else. But that's the the official, if I may say so, IDE or development environment for Android. So you develop in Android Studio using Android SDK, using the language of the platform to produce mobile apps. Same thing goes for iPhone, but iPhone uses Objective-C or Swift, and usually the development is done in Xcode. That's the native development. Of course, when you develop natively, the major advantage is your ability to utilize system resources and functions very effectively. What does that mean? It basically means, since you are natively developing, for example, for iOS, you would be able to touch or to utilize the resources of the iPhone to the most. So you would be able to utilize the operating system, the memory, the sensors, all the functionalities that are specific to iPhone, you would be able to fully harness them to help your mobile applications. And of course, that gets reflected into performance because you are natively writing for that platform. And so your mobile application is going to perform better. It's going to probably going to be more durable and better speed, better performance, better responsive to your users. That's the major advantage. Of course, that comes with a very high cost. Native development is not easy and it's very difficult. You would have multiple code bases. So if you are a company, for example, and you want to touch different users, you need to write Android code and you need to write iOS code. What does that mean? It means you are going to spend so much money in development and maintenance of your code. You need human capital, you need human resources, different types of programmers, you need different environments, you need probably different license, and of course, the time to market is going to be high. So the time it takes you to go to the market and produce your mobile app is going to take a little bit longer than other types of development. So that's basically the native development. The other version is the cross-platform development. And cross-platform simply means you develop using one technology and then you can deploy it in multiple platforms like iOS and Android. So you develop once for all platforms, and usually that is done through a single language, maybe a single SDK. And then you use also one IDE. So to develop mobile app, you don't need to go for Android and iOS. You don't need to go for Xcode and Android Studio. You only use one IDE. You do one development. Later on, you can deploy it in both platforms. Of course, the big plus for this is the low development cost and the short time to market. You need only single set of programmers skills. Maybe one or two programmers should be enough. You have one code base. The maintenance of your code is going to be much less. The disadvantage or the drawback of this is that, and again, I put this between brackets, sometimes you would face limited ability to utilize system resources because at the end of the day, you are using somehow a proxy to reach to your mobile phone, to the real platform. So there is another layer which you will go through so that you touch the real platform. And that can add some sort of limitations when it comes to utilizing your iPhone, for example, or utilizing your Android device. So you might face limitations in some functionalities when it comes to development. And of course, people also talk about performance issues. Performance here are in terms of speed, and of course sometimes durability of the mobile application. Cross-platform development usually there are two categories. One of them is called native cross-platform, and this is growing a lot and gaining lots of momentum. Native cross-platform basically means it uses a common SDK to natively compile your code into native iOS and native Android. So actually, the final product of the development is actually native. Although you didn't write it natively, but it was converted to native code for both applications. And this is really getting very famous, and lots of people are going into that direction of development. The other approach is hybrid, and hybrid basically uses web technologies, HTML5 and CSS to do the coding. This faces lots of difficulty when it comes to functionalities and performance, but people are actually going to this direction, the native cross-platform development, and it's gaining lots of momentum. what are the native cross-platform frameworks available today? There are plenty of them, but probably the most famous are these in here. We have the React Native. This is the one developed and supported by Facebook. So the React Native framework, and the other one is Flutter. Flutter is the platform written by or supported by Google. The programming language for Flutter is Dart, and it's gaining lots of momentum. Notice from 2019 to 2020, it's getting even lots of growth. There are some other versions like Ionic and Xamarin. Xamarin is using C#, so this is from Microsoft, but again, it's declining honestly. If you notice, the only one which is gaining momentum is Flutter, and React Native is also, of course, is actually at the top currently, at least. So my advice to those of you who are interested to go and develop or probably teach mobile apps, to look at these two frameworks. Probably Flutter is gaining momentum more even than React Native, as you can see from the figure here. So these are the two main categories of mobile development. There is also a growing attention towards what's so-called no-code development. This is basically platforms that would allow you to develop mobile apps without writing a single line of code. So you use only drag and drop to build your mobile apps. Of course, that is very good for wide variety of reasons. First of all, it's a very good learning tool for kids and beginners. So if you would like to introduce your grade 3 or grade 4 or grade 6 students and children to mobile development, you can easily get them engaged into this business by exposing them to one of these platforms. It's also a very good option for entrepreneurs who are not programmers, who have their small SMEs and they would like to develop a mobile application and they don't want or they don't have the money to invest into that or to hire a programmer. They can simply produce very nice and very good functional mobile apps using these platforms. And of course, even for experienced programmers, and even for those who know how to write native or cross-platform code, this no-code development environments are very good for prototyping and for showcases and for business cases. Of course, this sort of development is really limited. There are lots of limitations. However, when I say limited here, it's not really very limited. Yani you can still write very sophisticated and very good programs, very good mobile phones using no-code platforms, and they function. They can run businesses. If time permits, I can show you one of these at the end of this session. I have seen there are probably plenty of them, but I have seen MIT App Inventor, which is only for Android, and I've also seen a platform called Thinkable, and Thinkable is really very good. And I do advise everyone to look at this platform. It allows you to write very sophisticated mobile apps in a very short time. And believe it or not, this platform allows you to write machine learning mobile apps and AI mobile apps and speech recognition mobile apps and even blockchain mobile apps. So it's really very, very sophisticated and very easy to use. Now, that's it, I guess. This is probably my last slide. It's a couple of advices or maybe, takeaways for those of you who are interested. I guess before you start developing anything, at the end of the day, you develop for business. So you should understand very carefully the business requirements. So you need to understand and document the business requirement before you start developing your application. And to do that, you need to involve the stakeholders and you need to survey the market. There is no point whatsoever to develop a mobile application where there is another mobile application that does exactly the same job in the market, and probably it's for free, right? So a good market survey, involvement of stakeholders, very good requirement engineering of your business are key success factors for any mobile application. Another major thing, and honestly speaking, I cannot help in here, is the user experience, the UX. Mobile apps are not just code. They are not just writing the Java code or Kotlin code or Swift or Dart or whatever. There is a design component inside it, a user experience component. Actually, the user experience is very major component. And so you have to focus, you have to think in your team, if you are not good at design like myself, you would probably need to hire someone who is good in user experience, in UX. And UX does not only mean colors and themes. It means what does the flow of your program, what does the flow of the functionalities of your mobile application looks like. And so you need also to consider different variants, different sizes of the mobile devices. Once you have that in mind, before jumping into the coding, I would advise everyone to resist the temptation of hitting the keyboards and writing code, to spend some time doing wireframes and styles and mockups and even prototypes. It's very important to mock up and to define your styles before you go into coding. That would take you some time, yes, but it's very important. It will simplify your life later on. It will give you the theme for your application, and it would give you a clear understanding of how does it look like. And of course, you need to decide on the back end. These days, no matter how good are your mobile phones, at the end of the day, you need to connect to the cloud. And in the cloud, you need to decide what is the server I'm going to talk to. What is the database engine that I will inquiry? Is it an SQL type of database? Is it no SQL type of databases? What are the APIs that I need to integrate to? So you need to decide in your back end very early stage of your design before going into the development. That would save you a lot of time. And of course, it would also help you decide the cost, because the back end here, usually you will need to connect to servers, databases, different APIs that might need subscriptions or license. So you have to do that calculation. You have to factor that into the cost of your mobile application. I think I have. I'm done with the slides. Thanks a lot for your listening, and I'm really sorry for the quick session, but I thought I would make it like that just to give a very brief overview about this area of computing. Thank you for listening, and I'm happy to comment on your questions and suggestions.
Thank you, Dr. Nasser, for enlightening and interesting presentation on the smartphone application. Well, the fact that mobile apps is an intangible product makes your presentation makes it sound really very easy to start a business.
It does. It is indeed.
Yeah, Yeah, without of course ignoring the other factors like development codes, but it's really very interesting. Now there is a time for questions. Let us see if yeah, we have a question. Iman.
Please.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Nazar, for your informative session. You have mentioned the different developmental platforms between the native development and cross development platform. My question is, based on those two platforms, which do you think is the best platform to use in developing a nano literacy support mobile app?
What is that mobile app? Say again.
Which do you think is the best platform that I can use in developing a nano literacy support mobile app for young kids?
Well, my short answer is the cross-platform. However, that needs to be a little bit, studied in a little bit more details. It would depend at the end of the day at the functionalities. But I would say almost 90%, and that's just a wild guess. Almost 90% of mobile apps can be developed efficiently using cross-platform development. You would need native development in rare cases where there is really a functionality that cannot be accessed through the cross-platform SDKs, and that's really very, very rare. One good example of native development is the mobile gaming. For mobile gaming, usually you would need native development because you are very much interested into speed and animations, which is very tailored towards the platform. But generally speaking, you wouldn't really need that, yani.
Okay, doctor. Thank you so much. One more question, doctor. When it comes to security regarding the mobile app, can my mobile, for example, I developed this nano as mobile support using this cross platform. What about the security? Can my mobile app safely run, access data, and protect the data when the device running or when it is offline?
Well, there are two issues in here. Well, and it's usually confusing, by the way. We're talking about security or we're talking about privacy. طبعا, of course, mobile apps, like any other software artifact, they are vulnerable to security, breaches. But that's security breaches. Security here means someone takes the data who is not authorized somehow, if I put it that way. Privacy issues are a little bit different because privacy would depend on the provider of other services. So you might voluntarily allow a company X to access, for example, your contact list or your media gallery or whatever other data in your mobile phone. That is a privacy issue. Privacy issues are usually managed by policies and regulations. Security issues are managed by technology or are tackled by technologies most of the time. But generally speaking, I have seen I've taught native development, and now I'm teaching also cross-platform development. I haven't seen a major difference when it comes to security and privacy between the two. This problem is, or this issue is there, either you developed in native environments or in cross-platform. And of course, developers and programmers need to pay a lot of attention to this.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Have a great day ahead.
Thank you. I just would like to show you, if you allow me, this is the Thunkable interface. This is the Thunkable platform. You can create a free account inside it. And there are, you can really make very nice applications. I taught some students last time, and they have made very nice applications. See, these are some. By the way, these are kids students, kids, in their 5th or 6th grades. Just going to show you one of them randomly. I actually don't remember them, but let's just look at this dental clinic app. Just to give you an idea, it basically allows you to do reservations in a dental clinic. You can design your screens and of course navigate through them. And if you notice, just to give you an idea, you can build your user interfaces by simply dragging and dropping these components. You can align layouts. You can have voice components. Through voice, you can do speech recognition, speech to text, and text to speech without writing a single line of code, but just using the components and setting their properties. You can do lots of images. You can do barcode scanners. You can do speech, image recognition. You can connect to databases like Firebase, for example, maps. You can use different other tools, including blockchain and so on. So this platform does not use any code, but still, you can really use it to to develop very good applications. Sorry again, I just took some of your time, but I thought it would be a good idea to show you this this platform to have a look at it yourself.
Thank you so much, Doctor, for this new knowledge and learning.
Thank you one more time, Dr. Nasser. At the end of this talk, once again, join me to thank our guest speaker, Dr. Nasser Azidi, for his informative talk. In addition, as a reminder, today's talk recording will be available in MS Stream and ETC Talks channel and UTAS web page. Wish you all a great weekend. Be safe. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thanks a lot. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.